Humane is gone. It was a really interesting AI company founded by two ex-Apple employees, apparently the worst product that MKBHD has ever reviewed, and now they're just gone. It has been announced that they're purchased by HP, and the product will stop working in just a few days, less than a year after customers got them into their hands. So let's rewind a bit, go back through the process and see how it all unfolded, because it's a really interesting story. So the company Humane was founded in 2018 by Bethany Bongiorno and Imran Chaudhry, both ex-senior Apple employees. And initially, especially in the beginning, in the first couple of years, they were really secretive. They were kind of developing a product in stealth mode and not really talking a lot about it. But we knew that it was something that should maybe replace the smartphone, something for the interaction between humans and computers. Specifically, the co-founder said, "We're an experienced company that creates products for the benefit of people, crafting technology that puts people first. More personal technology that goes beyond what we know today." And while that's not very specific at all, they of course filed some patents, so that gave us some hint, but they were kind of all over the place. One of them was for the wearable with laser projection technology that they in the end also released, but another one was also for a system for fertility tracking and cycle tracking for women, which kind of is something that they didn't really go into at all. We got some hints that it would be something about AI in the end, because the founder started to speak about this transformation from the information age to the intelligence age, but that was kind of the only thing we knew. And it stayed like that for quite a while. Between 2018 and 2023, they were operating in stealth mode, not talking a lot about the product, only giving like these really subtle hints. And in the end, they actually had like 200 employees and we didn't know anything about the product pretty much. Okay, so before we look at the actual product launch, let's stop here for a moment and look at the funding, because that's something where we actually get real numbers for. Startup funding usually starts off with a seed round, which is like a small investment just to get the company off the ground. And then it goes in stages from Series A, B, C, D, F, G, and so on. And the rounds usually would increase in valuation and also in the investment that was made. So for example, if you look at the funding rounds for Slack, you can see that the investment increases significantly from the Series A to Series G. And that's how it usually goes. Humane didn't raise any seed funding, but they raised a really high Series A with 30 million invested at a valuation of 150 million, and it was led by Sam Altman and other prominent investors. They then followed that up in 2021 and 2023 with a Series B and Series C, both worth an additional 100 million. So at that point, it had like 230 million in total invested into the company. And they were again led by really credible investors like Tiger Global Management. In the end, we don't really know what the valuation was because it wasn't publicly disclosed, but it's estimated to be somewhere around 850 million, which is quite a high valuation for a company which hasn't really showed off anything to the public yet, hasn't really demonstrated product market fit, and it's just not really sure how successful the product will be. So then what happened next? Well, the first time the product was showed off was actually kind of a weird way to do it. It was in a TED talk by one of the co-founders, and he showed this laser projection device, which was like the first time we really saw what their product was going to be like. That was in April of 2023, and it was still a little bit hard to figure out what you would actually use the product for. We knew that they were aiming to replace the smartphone, but of course we didn't really know how many functions of the smartphone it could do and how exactly it should work. We basically only knew it was a wearable with a projection screen and it should replace the smartphone. It was then officially announced in November of 2023 at a price of $700 with a mandatory subscription of $24 per month, so you had to pay that just to make it work. The AI functions were mostly done in a partnership with Microsoft and OpenAI, and it was this small wearable device that had this laser projection screen, a touch surface, speaker, microphone, and the interaction was basically mostly done through hand gestures and also the voice interaction. Of course, it had a lot of potential because it kind of promised us to help with our screen addiction, and they could also ride this wave of AI enhancements that were happening really quickly at that time. Unfortunately though, when the reviews came out, they were kind of devastating. MKBHD called it the worst product he had ever reviewed, and The Verge said it was not even close and it just doesn't work. There were a bunch of big issues, like bad performance, slow response times and overheating, as well as AI errors, which happened even in their own demos with wrong facts being spoken out. So a couple of months after it began shipping, The Verge actually reported that returns were now outpacing sales for Humane, which is like the worst sign probably you can have when you're launching a new product. And this kind of leads into the last chapter, which just unfolded last week. Even in the first half of 2024, there were some rumors about Humane looking for a buyer, back then still at a valuation of 750 million to 1 billion. Last Tuesday then, on the 18th of February, it was finally announced that HP will be acquiring Humane for 116 million. That means the company dropped more than 85% of their valuation between their Series C in 2023 and now. It's worth just about half as much as was invested in the company in total, which is crazy. Luckily, at least several Humane employees got offers from HP to work there for a better salary, which is really good, but in the end, it's still a really bad story overall. I mean, HP doesn't really even care about the product, which also makes me think the price is kind of high. They announced in the same press release that all of the AI pins will basically stop working in like 5 days now, which is crazy. Like, they're not even a year old. They started shipping to customers in April of 2024, and now on the 28th of February they will just stop working because they will not have any access to Humane service anymore. So what went wrong? I mean, with a story like this, there's never really only one single reason, but I think there were like 3 key factors that really challenged Humane in the end. The tech just wasn't ready. They had no control over key tech, and they bet against the smartphone. I mean, look, ChatGPT just recently came out with a video chat feature, which is really cool. And they also announced Operator, and it's also working already, I think, in the US, but it's not for me in Europe, which is kind of something that would have really benefited the AI pin from Humane. But it just wasn't ready when the AI pin launched, and people had to wait for a long time for software updates, which kind of leads into the next reason. They just didn't really control the key technology that made their product great. They partnered with OpenAI and Microsoft, which is good because they're kind of leading in AI, but at the same time, the product, at least to me, is like 90% dependent on how well the AI works that is kind of lying underneath all of the product features. And Humane had almost no control over that because they were kind of dependent on the advancements that Microsoft and OpenAI made. That's always like a really tricky position to be in if you don't control like the key technology that's underlying in your product. And then also, while I kind of rooted for them because they bet against the smartphone and it's a really brave cause, I would say, it's just not something that has really worked in the past. People love their smartphones, they're so used to them. I mean, I even saw these news recently that iPhone upgrade cycles are getting shorter again, which is crazy. That means that people are buying iPhones more frequently again than they used to. And I think it's just really hard to go up against these giants like Apple, Google, and Samsung who are just trying to ride the smartphone train and keep that control in their house. So yeah, we all probably use our smartphones a bit too much, but I think on the whole, people just really like smartphones and they just don't really want or need to replace them right now. Okay, so of course, unfortunately, this story doesn't really have a great end, but I found it really interesting, so I wanted to share it. I think it's really great to see people trying new things, and I was really excited for Humane to try something new and try something that would actually replace the smartphone. And it's kind of unfortunate that it didn't work out. I think this space isn't really going anywhere because, I mean, AI is getting better and better, and for example, Sam Altman and Johnny Ive are working on something similar now. It just didn't really work out this time for Humane. And then, of course, if you imagine a collaboration between Johnny Ive and Sam Altman, they would overcome like 2 of the 3 key challenges that I named before. They would have control over the key technology, and the technology now is at a stage where I think it could be useful in this form factor. So it was just kind of a combination of bad timing and bad product strategy from Humane that I think just led to their failure in the end. Of course, it's always easy to tell in hindsight, and this product was really heavily criticized in the beginning. But I mean, every revolutionary product was heavily criticized in the beginning, so it's kind of not fair to say that we knew it all along. It's just always really hard to tell when a revolutionary product comes out and it's criticized in the beginning, whether or not it will be one of the few that actually make it to like the iPhone level, for example. So yeah, of course, it's kind of sad that it didn't work out for Humane, but I think it's really great that we have people trying things like that, taking risks like that, and trying to maybe also do something about the screen addiction we probably all have. I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week.